Welcome back, everyone. Jordan and I are back for another episode here on the Driving Loaded podcast. I had a really good episode last weekend with Dan. Really looking forward to the things that he's going to be putting out in the coming weeks and the months and everything. So really excited about that. How are things going, Jordan?
Going great over here. 2021 for like a lot of external factors is it's a crazy shit show. But business wise, we're putting our heads down every day and then working super hard and getting things done. And it's exciting to see the plants already starting to pop above the ground from the seeds we planted. Q4 of 2020, and family's doing good. And we are looking at buying a house maybe in South Carolina here.
Well, that's good. It's good that it's at least in the same state that you're currently living in. So there's that. No, that's good. I'm glad you guys are kind of moving in that direction, moving forward in that direction. So it's always exciting, especially moving so far away from what you've known for so many years. I'm sure it's starting to feel, I guess, more normal and more comfortable at this point.
Yeah, it is. We like the area. Actually, love the area. It's nice. We've been, obviously, you never know where the right place is really until like after the fact. Hindsight tells you some clarity questions or answers clarity to those questions. But yeah, we like the area. We found a house. We did make an offer, but still have some reservations. It's a little bit higher price than I'd want to pay because this market is super hot. But it seems like the right area, the right school district, the right kind of house, cool community pool. I was talking to the neighbor actually across the street. It's all brand new. And people that live in this house only been there for like 4 months and then they're moving already. So anyways, talking to the neighbor across the street. He just, another infantry dude, just got med boarded a month or two ago. He'd been in 15 years. Mm-hmm. So we had a lot of commonality from our, backgrounds and stuff. So that'd be kind of cool.
No, that's good. Yeah. Well, with where you guys are, you got what, Relax in Jackson out there.
Mm-hmm.
Close by.
Haven't been there quite yet, but I've been hearing about how relaxed that environment really is.
Yeah, I've never been there either. So thankfully, because I know there's infantry guys that can go there to be a drill sergeant. So thankfully, I skirted by and skated away from that as much as possible.
Totally. How are you and the family doing?
Good. Sure. Still teleworking, working from home. The Army's got them working from home for right now until about 2 weeks basically. So they'll reassess after this week. They're just trying to keep the COVID numbers down, I guess.
Sure.
Whatever. So we're at the point where we've at this time in our country we've got so many things going on. We're just kind of like, whatever. We'll play along for now, just to keep going, I guess.
Sure. No, that makes sense. Oh, hey, by the way, I got some good news. I probably hear the hum in the background, so I should clear the air here. A few weeks back, I had a debacle with the said vacuum cleaner that vacuums by itself. Mm-hmm. Roomba thing is humming along just fine. So put the machinery on rice for a week or two, and suckers just humming like perfect.
Yeah, and didn't destroy anything, huh?
No, I didn't. I was luckily, in good shape there.
No, my brother at Christmas, he told me he had a Roomba, and he's had that happen twice already, and so their Roombas sucked up some poop before too. So
is it really bad that I just got a good sense of relief in my heart, like in the depths of my soul? I just felt good. Is that bad?
No, I think that's good because I think there's a lot of people that have Roombas that have been in that same situation where they've sucked up some good old dog poop or cat poop or something. I'm sure there's a lot of Roomba poop stories out there. You could start your own Roomba poop channel on YouTube or something.
It's probably a support group that's really needed for that. I wonder how many divorces have come from the guys just flying off the handle with having to clean out the poop from the $900 vacuum that they didn't want to buy in the first place.
Yeah, that's now stuck in the wall because they threw it at the wall.
I lost my security deposit to boot.
Yeah, exactly. No, no, it's good. It's good. No, it's good that it's going. I remember you were telling me about that, but thanks for the public update because I'm sure that was a crap show, pun intended. You know.
Yeah, no, it was. I was ticked, and I actually didn't have high hopes that thing would work again. But no, it seems like it's actually working just as good as when we bought it. So
I'm surprised because you soaked the wheels with the little motors and computer boards on them and whatnot. So, uh, but no, that's good. That's good. I'm
I think the
glad
old
to.
rice trick really, I think, did work. Like because the rice actually changed colors and stuff when I pulled it out after like a week. So
Huh.
probably the poop moisture follicles or
And then
microbes or
microbes, poop grobes.
something.
Um, it doesn't. So it doesn't smell like poop now.
No, that thing was. I mean, I might as well power wash that thing, man. Dish soap, Dawn cuts everything, you know.
It does. It saves little ducks' lives. You know, everybody's seen the commercials. It's like now this duck is living free forever, and then
So we have organic soap on our counter that we use like 85% of the time, and then when there's a big grease job or poop job, you have to cut the old Dawn from underneath. We pull the old Costco size bottle out, and
hmm
gets her done every time.
yeah, you got like a 6 gallon bucket down there. You know,
Got a wand up top for the thing.
yeah, you got like a big old pump.
No, that's awesome. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
no, that's the joys of Costco.
Yeah, that's the one place that doesn't let me skate by without a mask these days. Costco. They were cool for a while, but they cracked down.
That's what I heard. We don't Costco, but we also don't have two young boys to feed. So, but no, I heard that they're pretty adamant about it. Even some of the other places, like well, Alabama, because our governor's is garbage and she has no balls, so she keeps extending these mask mandates. While Georgia's like, yeah, do whatever you want. So, I mean, for the most part, when the business, if somebody in the business says, "Hey, do you have a mask? Can you put it on?" Sure, I'll put it on. Whatever, got it. But otherwise, I'm not wearing one. It's dumb.
The best so far was I was walking downtown this area we're in, and there was this cool shop, and I didn't know really what it was. It was Christmas shopping for my wife, and it was a cigar and like I don't know what kind of some kind of bar. Actually didn't know what it was, but it just had cool sign up front. I saw like cigar room, and I'm like, cool, I'll check this out. Right?
hmm
I don't smoke cigars, like, but I just thought it was cool. So I walked in there, and there's like lazy boys, and people are in there smoking cigars, and there's a bar, people are drinking, smoking cigars, right?
hmm
And so I walk in there, and people are walking around with no mask from like their table to like the bar with no mask. I don't have a mask on, and like the bartend gets up and he's like, "Dude, where's your mask?" And I'm like looking around. I'm like, people are smoking cigars right next to each other, blowing
hmm
this crap out at each other. Like, who cares? And I'm like, no, there's no way. Like on a principle stand, I'm not doing it. Like that's where I draw the line.
Yeah, or when you go like when we went to the airport, it was mask everywhere all the time. But when you're eating or drinking, then you don't have to wear it. And it was like sitting there without it on. You feel like I'm breaking the law now. That's how they've made people feel when whatever we could go and we could talk about this for hours, but it's just dumb. Dumb.
Oh man, it's hilarious. You're looking over your shoulders, like, when is the guy gonna smuck me for not wearing a mask?
Yeah, or you're going out hiking and you're wearing a mask. It's like, are you?
Dude, I want to take the skinny end of a fishing pole and just smack a guy over the neck for that. Like, dude, you're like in Timbuktu. Nobody from miles around. Like, where are you gonna get this? That's where I'm getting pissed off, like legitimately angry about this. I get there's a health concern, all this stuff, but when do people understand? Like, you have to use logic, common sense, and stop living in a fear posture, because that demobilizes, that cripples your ability to actually think. You're going to that like constant fight or flight almost. So you're
Mhm.
not using any rationale at all for anything anymore.
Yeah, and that's a lot of people. They've clung to that. I mean, you see people they're so stricken by fear and whatnot. I went. I have to go to the bank every first of the month to go get my cashier's check to send it in for child support. Just the way it works, it's dumb. It's a whole. I hate it.
It's a
So I just
thing.
yeah, it's a thing. It's dumb. It's like they can't just take it out of my monies, that I get in my bank account. But anyways, so I order it online, on my app, and then I drive to Navy Federal, and I just go up to the front and pick it up. It's really easy. It's just I have to drive out there, but so I'm standing in line waiting for them to bring me my cashier's check. There's a lady's got a mask on and gloves on. And then there's a person that says, okay, you can go inside and see the teller to the person that's in line. Well, the lady with the mask and gloves on, she's like, you need to sanitize your hands. I'm like, she's wearing gloves. It just, it looked funny. I get it. Like, I don't know why she's wearing gloves, but whatever. It was just funny watching somebody sanitize their gloves. Like,
That's
it's,
rich, man. That's good. That's
yeah,
good
this
stuff.
is. I was just laughing. I was just laughing at this. Like, what are we? Where are we right now? This is how dumb we are. You're driving in the car by yourself with gloves on and a mask. Like,
Yeah.
I
And I
guess
sit.
it if it makes you feel safer, more power to you. But I don't want to do that.
Well, that's a good segue though. We've been talking about perseverance,
Hmm.
being able to like, I call it intestinal fortitude, like the ability to drive on through anything really. Unless you're dead, you have the ability to fight and continue going on the
Hmm.
trajectory you want to be on. This is a good place to start on that conversation because I think so many of these controls that we're seeing right now, like they're engineered, like I'm going to use that term loosely, but the idea of someone planned out that there's going to be a lady at the front door at this bank, there's going to be a sanitizer station before you can enter.
Hmm.
And then there's a lady that's actually, in the telling position, she's got gloves on. So if the gloves work, why the sanitizer? Right.
Hmm.
So some of these things that we're not thinking through, like why. So you have to look at the bigger why behind this. There's so much fear behind this that people are actually thinking like some of these controls you're putting out actually don't help, but they only reintroduce like a fear cycle into somebody else. So, but then at the same time, we're putting on this facade. Then like we have all these controls, so now we're safe. It's to me, anyways. It's a way to keep control over something that we don't have control over. Like it's a mental thing, not a physical thing.
Yeah, the thing is, you're not going to control this virus. It's just like you can't control the flu virus. Same thing. And then for something that has a 90+% survival rate, then we're acting awfully scared.
Well, and I
You know.
think look at the posture though. Like when you activities that we do, like physical things that we do, are driven from something. Like something inside of us is forcing our desire to want to have control over this. So it's fear of not wanting to die. That's real, and I get it. I don't want to die today, but if I do die, I know where I'm going. I know I'm
Hmm.
secure. So I don't have this daily fear that I'm living in. And sure, people in theory would would mourn if I died, right? Like I
Yeah.
get it, but you can't control that. Like I can walk out in traffic today and who knows what kind of drivers out there. You can't control that when your timestamp for life and death happens, right? You can't control that. Well, I guess life, there's a little bit of subjectivity there. Activities
Yeah.
happen, I guess. That being said, I think we have to go pull back and understand, trying to apply empathy to these people that are so fear based and fear driven right now. How do we unpack? Because you and I are very similar to a lot of this, and a lot of our military colleagues are similar. Is we don't live in that same fear posture all the time, and I think a lot of it has to do with training. You train your mind, you train your body for
Hmm.
years and years, so you can understand like what things can I control, and then which things can't. Like we've all known somebody or been by somebody that's been killed in combat. Like, you
Hmm.
and I for sure. But the idea of knowing these are phenomenal soldiers and things still happened, and I think that's another level of okay, we can account for most of what we can control, but there is just environmental factors that are out of our control. And I'm not going to live in fear though, because it's not going to help me. Like the end game isn't to be controlled by the fear. It's how do you drive behaviors that'll be changed based off what your belief systems are.
Yeah. Exactly. And people have um, taken on to this guidance of all these safety measures and whatnot, and I think it's worn people's, like you said, their rationale. It's worn it down, and people are just worn down in overall in general, because you see the number of suicides that have gone up, the amount of drug use, the amount of alcohol abuse, substance abuse or whatever that's happened because of all these measures that have been put in place, and it's not good. I can understand trying to slow this down and everything, but it's worn people down, and the point is that people aren't as willing now, and they don't have the drive to persevere. They give up, and then they just give in and say, all right, screw it, whatever. I'm gonna do whatever I have to do, and I'm just gonna follow in line. And that's where, people throughout their lives can either make the decision like, no, that this isn't what's going to define me. It's not, I can't control this, so let's focus on what we can control. I can control what's going on at my house. I can control what's going on in my brain, or at least I can try. And people just all, they want to give up at this point. And throughout our career, there was times where we're like, yeah, I'm sure, hey, it should be a lot easier to give up or quit than just to continue. But you have to dig deep. You can't just say, all right, I'm done.
But can you unpack that dig deep? Like, I understand, I think what you're saying, but to a lot of people that don't have that internal like fortitude, that resilience built up, like it's almost like a calloused ability to care. Like, I don't care what the external says. I know what I should be doing right now. So, like for instance, like, if it's not raining, you're not training. Like, that's the kind of mentality I want to dig through. Why is it that when the conditions get worse, when you're sucking all the more, you have this deeper desire to do what you're already doing? Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, it doesn't actually, the logic there shouldn't make sense, but it seems like it's true. It seems like when you're miserably cold and you're wet and you have your buddies around you, it helps there, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're in the suck fest, it's easier almost to go through the activities, the exercises. Like, you have this drive that comes from somewhere. I really want to know what that is. Like, what's that thing that makes guys like us want to push through the external factors and actually get better when conditions get worse? Like, what is that component that can you narrow that in it at all?
So the only thing that I've ever, because I've thought about it, especially sitting in the deer stand, it's nice and quiet. You got animals running around. No deer though, freaking, you know, rat bastards. Um,
If you weren't a mask, they would have been coming right by, man.
I know that's what I need to do. I need to wear a mask. But no, you have a lot of time to think, and I think it's in your head. I think some of it can be trained to an extent, but I think some of it is there in that person's personality. Because I looked back at people who'd never been in the military and whatnot, listened to some different podcasts, and these people, they never gave up, and they never spent a day in their life in the military. But there was something in them that just said, "Hey, look, I don't care what the obstacle is. I'm just going to keep going." Well, there's an obstacle there. I didn't achieve my goal here. Well, whatever. I'm going on to the next one. I'm gonna keep going. You keep jumping those hurdles, no matter what. I think it's just something that was maybe instilled in me. I don't know if it's just who I am. I was never my dad was never like, you can't give up, you can't give up. I just learned from him because he always worked. He never gave up. He's had a lot of trials and tribulations in his life. And I just looked at that and said, hey, if he can keep going, then why can't I keep going? Why can't I keep, I mean, I'm not going to die here, for the most part in this training or, going through this course or whatever. I'm not going to die. There is light at the end of the tunnel. It may not be the light that you're looking for, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So I think it's a mindset a lot, for the most part.
No, you bring up some good points. And while you're talking, just a random thought came to mind. I was pretty young, I don't know, 13, working on a dairy farm, and the owner's son, I guess at that point, he's probably just an employee. But anyways, he's running the farm, and he owns it now. But anyway, so we were sitting there milking cows, and he was moving some stuff around, and a cow like kicked, and he tried to move, and he ended up falling and cut his arm, like gashed his arm pretty good. Like, I'm no doctor, but I probably got some stitches for that guy, with probably all the poop and stuff around. It's probably pretty dirty, and septic
Yeah.
type activities happening there. Anyways, what does he do? He dumps a bit of water on it, gets some glue and some tape.
Hmm.
And within like 6 minutes, he's back to doing the exact same thing. And it didn't even flinch. Like, there was no like visceral negative response. It was like, all right, well, it's another task in my day.
Hmm.
And that's not your typical response for like an injury like that. But he knew he had to get certain things done, because if he didn't do it, no one was going to get it done. Right. And he understands in the environment that he's in, if he doesn't feed the cows don't eat, the cows don't produce milk, like they can get sick and all this stuff. And So just that's another mindset, I guess. That's the same kind of thing. Is like, why does he have the ability to not, flip out and cry about his injury and call the doctor and go get, stitches, and I wouldn't have judged him. That probably been a reasonable response
Yeah.
given the blood coming out of it. But it makes me wonder. And I think because right now I see everything happening, and not to go political, but I'm watching things with the Trump impeachment and all this stuff. And I don't have evidence to weigh in on this. I don't, but I'm watching people way overreact,
Mhm.
and every single level of government and people all over the place. I just feel like the ability to thrive and to fight through adversity right now is zilch. People don't have any gut anymore to gut things out.
So I think some people are afraid to gut things out because they're afraid of reprisal from what people will say. They'll post something on social media because that's we all live in the social media bubble, and I think people are afraid to be canceled or be ridiculed and whatnot. And it's like that's generally, if you're ridiculed that bad, then you're probably right. A lot of things, you see a lot of things happening. Why are people panicking about X, Y, and Z? And it's because maybe they're guilty of something. Maybe they've done something wrong. And I'm not putting it on any side right here, but anybody, if you're panicking as hard as you are, then something must be going on. You must be shady. Of course, we know most people in the government have some sort of skeletons in the closet, but um, it's just they're dividing the country, and they're eroding the family, and people are turning against one another, and where we should, you know instead be standing up for each other, whether we feel that that person's right or wrong, even though we disagree with what, you and I can have a disagreement on a subject, and that's fine. It doesn't change our friendship. It shouldn't. We shouldn't go to blows over it and be like, well, I'm never talking to you again because you believe X, Y, and Z. And so I think it's eroded us and eroded our patience for that. And so people are they're getting on a group of people or a fad or a bandwagon, and they're just following it instead of sticking to your core values. And if you have core values, I feel like I still have core values, and I'm trying to stick to those, and I'm trying to push through with those instead of going with the normal crowd that you see out there. If you want to, say that there's a normal crowd.
So, if I'm hearing you correctly, I love the fact that you kind of landed that conversation piece on values. So, you're saying if you have something that you believe in at your core, like these certain pillars in your life that the more they shake, the stronger they get. So maybe some of this is because some people don't have those, never been instilled certain values or there's these core values that are the most important things to you in your world. If you don't have these, when things do get tough, you have nowhere to kind of hold on to. There's no pillars of strength in your psyche. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, that is a great way to put it. With the things that were instilled into me, that were taught to me, is, hey, if you want something, you have to work for it. You don't just wake up and then, we don't come from money. If you want something, earn it. And so um, it's one of those things that I was taught at a young age. I worked in my dad's shop. Worked there probably from the age of 5 up until 18 when I graduated, and I got an allowance every week. But I also I had a vehicle. I had gas money, and then I had a little bit of money to go out and go to Sonic and Cruiser Drag and whatnot. But I had to work for it. I worked 6 days a week. I worked during the summer. During harvest season, I would help my buddies that are, it's harvest season, and we're working 24 hours a day. We're working shifts, nonstop, harvesting peanuts and cotton. And a lot of those guys, they have the same values, morals, and beliefs that you and I have, because they were taught the same thing. Hard work pays off. If you want something in life, you have to work for it. You can't just, put your hand out and say, "Where's mine?" And then when something doesn't go your way, you can't just, you know, cry and be like, "Well, it didn't go my way." Well, it's because you didn't try. So I think a lot of people that have that, and I don't know if it's a blue collar mentality. I'm sure there's people of all the collars, if you will, that have those morals and values. But I do believe that morals and values, something that's instilled into you. I think that goes a long way with the resilience, the perseverance, the I'm not going to quit attitude, because my dad's 67 years old, and he works just as hard as if like, when he was 30 years old trying to make his business. And that's the inspiring thing, is it doesn't matter how old he is and how long he's been doing this. He just keeps going. He doesn't stop. He has a lot of speed bumps, and he's had a lot of things happen in his life, but he doesn't stop. He doesn't give up.
Yeah, that's, you mentioned blue collar. You see certain trends because a lot of times, you're thinking working with your hands and breaking your body is harder, and you can fight that argument all day long. But I know now I work more of a desk job than not, and there's some days that I get off work and, dude, I went to a sandwich shop, Jersey Mike's, and I handed her a bag of chips, and I'll say, oh, I told her I'll take this sandwich too, and she looked at me like, WTF. And I was just fried. Like I'd worked such a hard day, and you think about thinking as burning calories. You actually burn calories, but you're not exerting physically. So there's just a weird piece there that I do
Mhm.
miss a lot of the physical aspect of, whether military, construction, farming, whatever. Um, but the idea of this is like the strength and where you find your strength at is so important. And I'm trying not to be judgmental in this tone because, it's so easy to rush to judgment on these people that are freaking out over COVID or the political stuff that's happening, and just like the world's going to burn and come to an end, like all this stuff. You think about it, if you don't have like if you don't have something like a pillar of value that you've been instilled with, that you kind of have a foundation in your family or your personal unit, that this is, doesn't matter what happens externally, this is what I'm going to hold as my truth. You think about it right now, they say that on average, an average person, from the time they wake up, within 15 minutes they absorb more information from their phone than like our parents would have in a full 2 week span,
Mhm.
as far as information around your locality, from your community to your federal government and whatnot, and then around the world, like all the hazards and then things that are happening.
Yeah.
So you think about your mind just plagued continually with things, and a lot of fear-based stuff is what's being perpetuated, continuing that cycle. But so if you don't have this immediate strength from a value that you hold, and then you're just given fear all the time to think and mull on, it's always in your mind. It's so easy to think now, okay, these people are shaken because they have no truth, they have no moral compass that's saying I have to do this to get by, and they're relying on the government and other entities to hold their values for them, and that's where their strength is found. So when you have that instability in your mind, and your government is it's providing that value system for you, and that value system is being eroded in theory or undermined, all of a sudden you're like, that's attacking me personally now, because you find your strength there, so that's attacked. That's
Mhm.
a direct attack on me now, so that's where my real fear comes in. And it seems like that's where the real control is happening in a lot of people's worlds now, is because they truly believe that like the government is their value system.
Yeah, and I think that they rely on the government to provide them their value system, their paycheck, their everything, and it's I think it's something that's been in the works, in the plans for many years, and it's working. And instead of, as adults, as parents, teaching our children these values, these morals, and to have a foundation, because if you don't have a foundation, just like any of the, once upon a time there was a house built on straw and it blew down, whatever type deal, but you build a solid foundation, that's gonna carry you through. And I think, listen to some different people on social media. One guy comes to mind, David Goggins. He was didn't have a great childhood. Had his dad. I think his dad was beating his mom, and he had to. He had a lot of adversity in his life as a kid. And now he went and became a SEAL, did all that stuff, and now he's, if you just look him up, he's very popular on social media, and his thing is stay hard. It's just it's crazy, because this guy is absolutely nuts, and people probably think he's psycho, but that's the mentality we need to have. We need to have the mentality that we need to stay hard no matter what. It's like you have a mountain, well, you can climb it. If you can figure out a better way to get up there, you get a helicopter, you can bribe somebody to get in a helicopter to get up top, then so be it. Either way, you're getting to the top. And so I think also not just the mindset and the morals, but I think people who've gone through a lot of adversity, a lot of hardships in their lives, they've built up that callousness that you're talking about, and I think that rubs off on some people. They see that, and that inspires them, and that helps them to develop that same type of resilience, or that same type of perseverance. Maybe not to the same level, but you see those people, and it's inspiration because you want whatever fire that they have, because their fire is much better than your fire. And so I'm trying to break it down in the most simplistic terms, because that's usually how I think about it, in the most simplistic terms. But even a guy like Cameron Haynes, who's a big time hunter, big social media person, his thing is keep hammering. And so another thing that like when you're in ranger school, you're like, well, I'll just quit tomorrow. And then when tomorrow comes, like, I don't feel like quitting today, I'm going to quit tomorrow. Hey, if that keeps you going, then that keeps you going, whatever it may be. And the guy next to you might be like, it's actually a good idea. I'll just quit tomorrow with you. We'll quit tomorrow together. Hey, and then you get together the next day and you're like, hey, man, you ready to quit? Yeah, I'll do it tomorrow. Okay, cool. And then by the time, you realize what's going on, you're graduating with that person or those people that, you started with. So, I think that perseverance, that resilience can come from many different things. And like I really didn't have a bad childhood, so I think mine was just instilled into me, versus people like David Goggins, who had a troublesome childhood and he had to learn things the hard way.
No, he makes some very solid points. And I think one thing, a takeaway for me anyways, is, look at society in general. And I'm not complaining about this because we've gotten pretty soft as a civilization. Our, technology advancements and the conditions in which we live, especially in, developed worlds like, or countries like America. And we're so blessed to have what we have. Um, the idea of us being able to understand what that actually instills and what that kind of builds in people when you do get a soft environment. I love having a soft bed. I love being comfortable. But
Mm-hmm.
now when I go into the woods and sleep on a hard, like I love the woods, but it's a little bit tougher for me to go and camp without some kind of mat underneath me because my back starts hurting very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like in ranger school, how did I manage to get by for months sleeping on just the ground? Right, I think we had a green mat that was torn in half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Try to tape it once, but um, bunch of jerks.
Right.
No, so the idea of that though, so apply that to your mind. So you've been everything in your life is. I'm not saying you don't have challenges, but for the most part, we have a pretty comfortable lifestyle. So all of a sudden, adversity is thrown our way, and we don't have the backbone and the stomach to fight through it without being shaken like and people are committing suicide over it. So obviously it's drastic. So a takeaway for me is, okay, how do you put a check out in front of you to say like, for every different, element of your life. So your marriage, your family, your kids, your vocation, your hobbies, like everything you do, is there a way you can put a check out in front of you to say, okay, am I becoming complacent? Am I becoming soft or weak in this area? And if so, can I put a challenge out there? Like, thinking about, like I did a Mount St. Helens. I did the circumference of it last year,
Mm-hmm.
and we ended up. I don't know how we did it. We started off on the wrong trail, and we ended up like going up the mountain, like halfway up the mountain, and we had to come back down. And just the trails were, I don't know. We didn't do any planning. Truthfully, it
Oh,
was
yeah. Piss poor planning equals
well,
what? Piss poor performance.
exactly. We were told there was a sign. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Anyways, no, it was our bad. So anyway, we ended up hiking an extra 4 or 5 miles, and we ended up getting back at like 4 a.m. So we did it in one day. It was like 36 miles, and it was pretty rugged terrain, and it was one of the hardest challenges since probably ranger school. And the cool thing was that there was a moment in there it was straight suck fest. Like I didn't want to move. I was tired, ran out of food, didn't have any water left. We didn't plan. So, but the cool thing is like that event was a good test for me. It pushed my comfort level. It pushed, like Jason Van Camp talks about, deliberate discomfort. Like it pushed my abilities, my bounds, my comfort zone, everything in me. It stretched me. So now going hiking again, like it gives me a new, profound respect for that strength that I gained that day. And so I wonder, like even in marriage, like we get complacent, we get soft. So when something hard comes up, it's easy to run away. Well, what can we do in our marriages? Is there a conference we can go to? Is there a book we can read together? Some kind of devotional together to build, relational intimacy and things like. So I'm just wondering in general, what can we be doing to help, other people understand to not be shaken when external factors happen? You have to have an internal strength. Well, how do we build that internal strength? It's not just working out. You don't just go pump iron to build this,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a mental thing. We all know that your body can push much further than you think you can. You and I have done it many of times.
Hmm.
Most people haven't had that luxury, that experience to have someone else have pushed us, and that's one thing I think we have is a huge benefit being a veteran like we are. We've been paid, literally paid, to push our bodies and our minds past what most people would ever even imagine thinking about.
Yeah, I think with being uncomfortable, I think that's where we progress. Just Van Camp, he nails it right on the head. It's being comfortable with being uncomfortable, and where my thing is, where are we getting our checks and balances? Who do we check in with? Like you said, where where's our backstop, and who do we talk to say, hey man, am I still good, right? Am I on the right azimuth? Can I get a compass check, as we would say a lot of times in the military? And I think that comes with our friends, because we have these conversations with our friends and we see where they're at, and we should be open with one another, and eh, say, hey man, how are things going? Oh, I'm struggling with this and this and this, and like, oh yeah, me too, man, but this is what I'm doing to help push me through it. Oh really? And then so maybe you try the same thing. I think where the point is that I feel like we should check in with our friends, because that's who we rely on, or we should be relying on, to help guide us and keep us going in the right direction. And if those friends you have are not doing that, then maybe you need to get a new set of friends, because you are the friends that you keep. So I think with our or even our family, our family can also help keep us in check, and especially with being geographically displaced, I think that can help as well. We can reach out to them and say, hey, just checking in, seeing how things are going. And I think with those conversations, we can help one another get through all this crap instead of relying on someone else. Dig deep and find those morals that you were taught. And if you weren't taught those, and find somebody that has those morals and learn from them.
I wonder if you could do, because like, this all makes sense, and you're speaking from like a posture or a bias that you've had these instilled in you. But let's pretend for a second someone doesn't really have, or they're loosely defined. They don't really know what they are. They're kind of lucid in general. I wonder if we could build like a spreadsheet or like a question template that would drive someone to say, like, you take this test and these are what you really believe in, and help them identify, like truly identify the top 5 things or 3 things in their life that are important to them, and
Hmm.
help quantify that so they can understand how to strengthen those areas, how to build those areas up so they have more stability. So when hard times do come, you have something that you can really have as a foundational strength. And I just think there's more practical things we can actually, as veteran community, help people understand. They have the ability to do the same thing. The mental resiliency is something they can have as well.
Well, the Army does give an awesome master resiliency training course, so it's top notch. It's premier. No, the Army does have that. Some resiliency course to teach you resiliency, and we've talked about it before, and how awesome I think it is. I think that, yeah, you can teach some people things, because Sherry went through it and she said she learned some things, but some of the stuff was just kind of like, just grow a pair of balls, do it, just go do it. Don't you don't like, people. I think people are timid. They're afraid. They they're waiting to ask for permission instead of just going and doing it.
Yeah, but for most people, I'd push back on that because I don't think most people have the ability just to grow a pair of balls, as you say. I think it
That's
takes
true.
something. So that's what I'm trying to say. Like, yeah, maybe I'm getting soft, but I just feel like if I can pull back on my own judgment, my own bias to this, if I really want to build people up, how can I help them? What do I help give them with, the training I've had? How do I help them understand how they can build it in their own mind, their own, heart, if you will? And I think there's ways practically to help, and a lot of time it comes from one-on-one talking and working through things and helping them understand you don't have to crumble when adversity comes. You have strength, and this is where it comes from. You've like, say you're a parent, things get hard. Your kids need your strength. They need you to be strong right now. So even if you don't want to, buck up, man. It's your responsibility right now. And just a mental check. And all of a sudden they're like, oh crap, you're right.
Yeah, and that I think it's a good thing that you mentioned the family aspect of it, because you do have to be there for your kids, your family, and show them, hey, look, somebody is at least pretending to, or trying to do the right thing here. We're trying to figure this out on our own as well. Um, but because if we're not setting that example, we're not showing our siblings, our parents, our kids, our neighbors, how to be that example, then we're failing our family, our community itself, because people will notice. Like if you're in public, which some people are not much these days, but if you're in public and people see those values, those morals, I think people can see that, because I watch people a lot, and I just see the how some people are acting, and I'm like, man, I would have got my face caved in if I acted like that. And I don't know, because I wouldn't want my daughter to act like that. And I said, Kai, you will never act like that. That's unacceptable. Not trying to attack the person, but I was trying to attack the behavior, saying, look, that kind of behavior is unacceptable. We don't do that.
No, it's obviously awesome that you have, like I said, you've got those morals and values instilled in you. So now you're passing those on to the next generation, of Peters. But um, the idea of like even my kids now and being adopted, I'm changing their whole story. Their lineage is different now, and we're putting them on a new path. And the cool thing is even talking about like civic responsibility and taking care of your community and caring, for more things than just yourself.
Hmm.
We've been picking up trash. They have these little, like a Jeep, a 4-wheel Jeep, and that they have steering wheel and they pedal, and they
Hmm.
have trailers for them. So we've been going, and yesterday we filled out the whole trailer. And the funny thing is there was like a 24 pack of White Claws. And
Yeah.
that was kind of funny watching my kids dump those out inside the road, and people driving by. And the
Like,
cool thing was people were honking the horn and saying thank you to the kids. And they're like, one of my kids was like, they appreciate this. And they start to click to them. Like, I'm doing something that I don't have to do, but it feels good to be part of something bigger than myself and giving back. And I think that's the kind of stuff you understand, that when things do get hard, you have a community to rally on if you understand that you're part of that community. And so often we're kind of almost trained to think we're doing this world by ourselves. We're doing life by ourselves. And I think that's one thing I'm excited about, having the ability to train into my kids to be bigger thinkers, to think, beyond their current circumstances. And, one thing my grandma used to always say is like, and this too shall pass. Like any
mhm.
hard thing we're going through, it's only for a season. You can do anything for a season. It's not going to be on forever. And I think you look at suicides, people get caught up in the season they're in, and they think this is forever. This is my end all. And they take their lives because they're trying to take care of a short-term consequence, or a solution with the long-term consequence rather. And I just feel that if we can, kind of turn the dialogue some and have people think in a bigger scale, and then also train in the daily resiliency tools. I just think there's a lot of things we could do with this conversation.
Yeah, I think it can go many different ways. I'm trying to teach uh, Kaya how to have thick skin, because she's very competitive. I'm very competitive, especially we're playing board games and whatnot, and she gets butthurt really quickly, and so immediately she gets attacked, pounced on, because I want her to. And it may sound bad, but I'm trying to nag her and tease her a little bit, because I want her to develop that thick skin, because I don't want her to be in school and soccer or whatever, and somebody's making fun of her or somebody's teasing her, and she just loses her stuff. She could just be like, yeah, okay, whatever, dude, I don't care, you're just saying words, forget you. But it still bothers her, and so I'm trying to teach her, like, you got to develop that thick skin. People are just going to say words. It's like, do your job, do what you need to do it to your best of your ability, and if somebody has something to say about it, whatever, you do the best that you can do, and you do what the coach is telling you to do. Because a lot of these people, they haven't developed that thick skin, and they're like, well, somebody made fun of me, so I'm gonna go kill myself now. And it's like, no, dude, that's not the answer. Just because somebody makes fun of you, maybe they themselves are struggling with something, that the reason they're making fun of somebody else is because they themselves, or their self-esteem is low. You never know.
No, that's spot on, and that's obviously a very real subject for a lot of people. So I want to be very kind of sensitive to the fact that people, even on this podcast, I know one person in particular, like they have lost a child to suicide, and the idea of that is something I'd pray I never have to go through, for starters. But to know what's going on through a child's head it's hard to really always know. But one thing I do know is the idea of kids finding so much value and being validated by the community, and especially in the social media world that's so fake.
Hmm.
That's one thing I think we have to start talking about from a global perspective of helping people understand where validation should come from. And if you don't have those pillars that I know, like, this is my strength comes from, this is who I am, and why, you know, I don't have to care what the world says about me. And obviously there's certain, civic things that are civil, like social validations vocationally that I want, like securing contracts. Obviously I want my business to thrive. Well, you have to
Hmm.
have relationships. You have to have, the ability to sell your services into a marketplace. And that's validation right there. But that shouldn't be my end all. Like, if I lose a contract tomorrow, it shouldn't be, suicide shouldn't be an option.
Mm-mm.
And that's, I know business individuals that deal with that on a daily basis. They on the precipice of suicide based off a one win or a loss on a contract, on a deal they're fighting for 6 months. Like, sure, it sucks and your stomach hurts, and you might lose that commission and you might go broke for a bit. But honestly, life goes on, and there's resources to kind of get over those seasons. But I just think a couple of things have to happen. That society as a whole has to start talking about validation, where it should come from. And then obviously on an independent level, like, have checks and balances in your life to make sure you're always trying to instill tools to strengthen your intestinal fortitude, to strengthen your ability to drive on through all. So if external environmental factors get tough, have I trained for that? Have I gone on a 36-mile hike and pushed my body past what I thought I could do? Have I gone through counseling with my wife or my kids, or, have I done a vocational class this month to strengthen my ability to, if I fail on a contract, what are the steps I can take to get over that? Like, there's always tools you can use and train your body. So when you do face that adversity, you have the ability to stomach and get through it.
Yeah, I think people are quick to give up. Like you said, a small speed bump or contract didn't get put through, and then all of a sudden you're depressed, you're sad. I think the society as a whole has made it almost a fad or cool, if you will, to be sad, depressed, or have anxiety, because everybody is depressed, everybody has anxiety, everybody's got all these problems. And growing up, either people didn't admit it or it wasn't that way. I don't know. I don't know if it's, and I know there's a lot of people that are sad, depressed, and are anxious, but I think part part of it is people are just, it's a fad, and so they want to fall in line with that fad. Saying, "Oh, well, I didn't make that contract. I'm a terrible person. I just need to commit suicide." No, really, just because of one little thing, immediately you give up. I started listening to the Mike Rowe podcast, and there was a guy on there. His name was Henry Phillips. He bought a patent off of a guy, and it wasn't even Mr. Phillips' patent. He went and sold it and made money, hand over fist. But in the story, Mr. Phillips said, when somebody tells him no, that all that they're telling me is yes to another question that I'm going to ask them. And it worked for him because he was a hell of a salesman. He took a patent that had just been rejected. He went back to the same people to push the same product, the same patent, and he won. Same exact product, did different person, different attitude, different perspective, and he wasn't willing to take no for an answer. And
Which
so
is
he,
which a phenomenal perspective that you bring to the table here with that idea, because that's another retraining thing. You
Mhm.
gotta know, sure, but how do you take the next, answer and change the question to get the right answer you want? That's the training that you put your mind through, right?
Mhm. Yeah, and I don't know Mike didn't go into the background of Mr. Phillips, but the guy that he bought the patent off of, this guy had been working on this for years and years and years and years, and he kept pitching it and pitching it and pitching it, and no one was ever buying it. And so he bought this guy's at a bar wallowing in his sorrow, and Phillips comes by and buys the patent from him, turns around and goes to the same people that it was just proposed to and sells it to them. He doesn't give them the patent, but this guy, he would go to all these different auto manufacturers. It was a part for the auto industry, and he was selling it to every single auto manufacturer because he wouldn't take no for an answer. He always just said, "Well, that's to me, that's a yes for a different question that I'm going to ask you." So he took that no and turned it into a yes. It was very successful with that. The point isn't that he made a lot of money. The point is that he was not willing to give up. It was just it was just a yes for another question.
That's something I can actually go through right now. Being in the sales world, it's pretty tough. There's so many people trying to sell different products that we're building up these additional walls now of how to string people along and say yes for long enough so you get them excited about it. So I'm getting this, I'm on this cycle that like, I got 10 contracts out and these people are all excited about it and they're committing to it, but people's yeses don't mean yes anymore. Like, that's one thing I want to make sure that I'm staying diligent about is practicing that, what I preach. And if I say yes, I should follow through with that. So when I'm on these sales calls and I go through the whole pitch and I invest time in the relationship with them, and they tell me, yeah, I want to do this. I want to move forward and give me the contract. And then they sit on it for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Hmm.
Sorry, I just don't have time right now. And I get it, like things come up, but I think there's just this ability for us to be so whimsical with our words and that matters. And I think that has a negative effect on ourselves because it ultimately is going to affect their business at some point because
Hmm.
somebody else is doing it to them.
Hmm.
So I just think we have to, like going back to that, I love that kind of stuff. We can train into our ability to think through the situation. Okay, they said no here, but I don't have to, end my life over this. How do I
Hmm.
reframe, retool myself to then ask a different question to get the desired result I'm looking for?
Yeah, you might be able to find that that first no will turn into a yes on something different. They still end up buying something from you. It may be a different product, it may be a different service, but the point is that just because they say no doesn't mean that you stop. It's one of those things that should motivate that person to say, "Oh, okay, so where can I get a yes? Where is it?" And then you start picking away, peeling back the layers, and you find that, and then you capitalize on that, and you keep going and keep going and keep going, and that's goes back to being uncomfortable. It's going to be a little uncomfortable. Maybe you re-engage them over and over. Hey, just checking in. We talked about this and this and this. Um, Give me a call back or email me back as soon as possible. Let's talk about this. And you just keep re-engaging these people. They might wear down. They might wear down and say yes. You never know. And then they'll end up actually liking it and being like, "Man, I wish I would have done this from the get go."
Yeah, no, I love the mentality, and I'm going to definitely look into more tools and training opportunities for that because I could definitely strengthen myself in that area. Um, but I guess just in general, like I think this conversation has to be ongoing. I think we should, come up with different options. And I'm actually going to put together, actually maybe do some research first on what tools might be available for like, identifying your core values. And I think there's something to that. You have to start with something before you can build strength around anything. And then I think that's measurable too. So when things come up in life, you can actually benchmark it against something.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Just like with a vehicle, you can't. It's not going to drive without an engine, without wheels. You're not going to move along without some sort of foundation or some sort of engine to get the wheels moving. So I think it's a great idea to do that because I mean I'd like to take the test and see what happens. I've taken several psych evals and whatnot, and every one of them they said it seems like you're pretty stuck on your morals. You revert right back to that. I said, well, that's what I know. It's the way I grew up. I grew up in a blue collar community and in conservative home and went to church all the time and everything, and that's just the way it is. And it's quite common for people to circle back to their core beliefs or their morals or what they were taught as a child growing up.
But I think you should actually question like what you believe to be your like your pillars in your life. If you shake them, they should get stronger, not weaker. If they topple over, are they really that strong in your life? And why do you believe what you
Hmm.
believe? So I think it's a good check and balance for even those things to like, my faith. What do I believe this stuff? If it's true, I should be able to question it. And on the other end of the question, the answer I get, what I research and find, should be strengthening my pillar. And if not, I should actually question my pillar. Is it really a pillar? And why is it a pillar? You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Hmm. Yeah, and what I'm hearing is that sometimes people do things a certain way just because someone told them that's the way it's done. We get.
Exactly. Like you grow up in your parents' home, and they might have some bad practices that they're going through. And I'm not saying that that's your case, but I know in my
Mhm.
case, there's things I was taught that I don't believe today. I think they were actually crap. I love my parents, respect them dearly, but I
Mhm.
think they had some flawed principles with parenting, with some of the way they believed about their faith. And anyway, so I've questioned that stuff along my journey, and I've built my own pillar. But I've been able to
Mhm.
question it. The more I question it, the stronger it actually gets, in some
Yeah,
areas at least.
yeah, of course. And our parents were trying to just do the best that they could at raising the kids that they have. You guys had Noah's Ark over there, 2 by 2, and like 12 kids and
16.
whatnot. Yeah, 16, 16. I swear, you guys are Mennonites. I swear, um, or Catholic or something. But no, I don't know. I forgot where I was going with it. I was,
See, Noah's Ark got you all
I
freaking
know
razzled
Noah's.
up, man.
No, it does. But okay, so no, like you're taught these things and you're saying, well, I'm not gonna raise my kids that way. That is good because that is showing that you're not just following in what you haven't been brainwashed to walk blindly in one direction. You grew up and you saw, hey, this is what I would change here. Still love my parents to death. It doesn't change how I feel about them, but I don't agree with the way that we were raised during this period or with the way they did this. And that's good because you can take those and you can actually use those for your children and instill in them the values that you believe are better, that will better serve them.
Yeah, exactly. I think, but that goes across the board. And I think that's one area I'm going to try actually sharpen is like in my vocation, my career, and the things I'm doing. Start questioning those because oftentimes I feel like I can get blown pretty quick on those things. There's like an area of my life I feel a lot of strength from, and a lot of ability to kind of drive through. But I think with the vocation piece, I'm still finding out who I am and how I operate within the marketplace, so to speak. And I just feel like I can stabilize that platform. So I'm really intrigued actually walking away today. I've got some actionables that I'm going to look into and ask questions to try to strengthen those pillars and root out some bad foundations that I maybe had. Because sometimes when you just chase everything, it's hard to know what you actually should be chasing then.
Yeah, because you're not pinpointing it. I spent a lot of time thinking about exactly what you're talking about, sitting in the deer stand. It's really good. Which is another reason why I like going out there because you're in nature. It's quiet, minus the birds and squirrels doing whatever the heck it is that they're doing, making god awful noises that they do every time. Um, Gives you a lot of time to think, reflect, and that to me is almost like a form of meditation. I feel much calmer. My levels of everything go down significantly, and it's a great time to, like you said, reflect and look at the areas of your life. Am I shooting a shotgun right now when I should be shooting a 22 or something like that, and focusing on one thing because that will help make a lot more things better instead of trying to make everything better.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Um, More concentrated efforts to keep your shot group tight is important. No, I like this. This is a good conversation. I really think we got to keep kind of picking up nuggets and putting them into just ongoing conversations about this. I think there's so much to this to have a good strong core. And I don't think this year is going to get any easier than last year, but I'm actually really excited about what's happening. Not maybe some of the environmental things, but I'm excited about where our business is going, where our family's going, because I'm being more intentional now. I'm finding out what's important to us, and I'm doubling down on those areas. And it's cool because I'm rallying around people now that I have the same belief systems for vocationally and in my faith and my family and where we want to go as a unit. And I have more people now that I have in my circle, my tribe, that's now strengthening what I believe in. So it's giving me more stability to not necessarily care what's happening in DC or other, Capitol buildings and whatnot around the country.
Exactly. The thing is that people try to control what's on their feed, on their little screen. That instead of focusing on what they can control at home, you can't control what's happening in DC unless you're that person, in the government. But otherwise, you're not going to control it. Stop worrying about it. Stop stressing about it. Uh, you know, Go back to zero in your gun and tighten your shot group up at home. Uh, be intentional, like you said. Be intentional with your family. We've already made our schedule because Kaya's starting soccer, so we've already laid out for the next 3 or 4 months. Pretty much every weekend we're going to a soccer game, and so that I've already had to cancel things that I was really looking forward to going to, but I canceled them because I said that I will not miss my daughter's birthday. I'm just not doing it. It's not going to happen. So, um, and that's I'm trying to be more focused on what's going on at home versus worrying about what I can't control outside. of my property. There you go.
Interesting there. Just got
Yeah.
randomly muted.
Yeah.
But I think that's like the perfect, like, kind of landing this plane, this conversation today is, starting small, starting at home, starting the things you can control. The desired outcome is a relationship with your daughter. Okay, that's the end. That's the end goal. Now you're, reverse engineering the plan to get there. So what are you doing? You're making her a priority. Her birthday's a priority. So you're canceling selfish. No, I shouldn't say selfish, but these things that you really want to do that aren't bad, but just the timing is bad, right? So you're making that a priority, which is helping you with the relationship with your daughter. So many of us are neglecting things like that, myself included, right? That we can do a better job at. So I think that's just a perfect, like, very pragmatic or practical way to kind of end this conversation in general, is for today at least, is to identify one or two things in our circles, our worlds, and in our environment that we can control the day-to-day decision, and look at the outcomes. What are the desired results I want? So part of strengthening your core is your family unit. So your family unit's important. How do you make sure your relationship with your daughter? You're doing those things. I know we all have those, relationship pieces, or, career pieces, or whatever, that we can do a better job being intentional, and ultimately will help strengthen that core resiliency we've been talking about.
Yep, absolutely. Can't agree more with that. And no, I like where the conversation is going. When you asked me yesterday what we're going to talk about, I thought to myself, I have no freaking idea. It's just, yeah. Yesterday when I got home and Sherry was like, "Did you get a deer?" No. And but if I wasn't here talking to you, I'd be out in the woods right now, because I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep being in the woods until I see one, and I'm going to get a deer. It's going to happen.
You
So
still have 4 or 5 hours of daylight, man. Get back out in those Alabama woods.
I'm I I've already checked the winds and everything. I've got a spot where I'm probably going to go. I'm not
All right,
sure yet.
man. Well, go out there and bag me a buck, and maybe send some venison back my way. Those back straps are calling my name.
I if I shoot one, I will dry ice you some.
Dude, yeah, maybe
Conjo.
even some beef jerky. If you make some jerky, you can even
Oh,
some. That's easy.
yeah. So I was looking at dehydrators already yesterday. Um, yeah, I want to definitely do some dehydrating of the deer meats and the vegetables and the fruits and whatnot. Kind of turn into a hippie or something. I don't
Hey,
know.
man, you got the hair going. You're like way ahead of the curve.
Hey, I'm living my best life. I don't care what people think, and
Oh, that's awesome. I'm
you
a
know,
kid. A
I
kid.
no, I love it. I take the compliments.
I love it. All right, man. Well, hey, I appreciate your time. Definitely get out in those woods, and next year I'm gonna make that a priority. Get out a couple of days, and
Yeah,
there's some trail systems I want to talk to you about hiking. Actually, it'd be kind of cool to do a week hike, even if it's not hunting. Get on the woods and do a nice long hike and
that or
backpacking a bit.
that or mountain biking. You can always rent a mountain bike, and I know there's tons of trails out there. So
That's true. That's true. Well, hey, let's get something dialed up. And hey, you guys have a great week, and thanks for tuning in. And hopefully you took a nugget or two from today and can apply it to your world. Make yourself a better human being, and a little more internal resiliency, I guess.
yep, that's correct. And a no is just a yes to another question.